I'm about to tell you something that most cardiologists will never say out loud, something that completely changes how you should think about high blood pressure. Not next year, not someday, today. Because if you understand this in the next few minutes, it could literally save you from a stroke, a heart attack, or years of medication you might never have needed. High blood pressure is not what you think it is. It's not too much fluid. It's not too much salt. And it's definitely not just a number on a monitor. And if your doctor told you, just cut salt, take a pill, you'll be fine. They're only treating the symptom, not the disease. And that's the real danger. Because while your numbers look controlled, your arteries may still be quietly deteriorating, stiffening, hardening, aging 10, sometimes 20 years faster than the rest of your body. And that silent damage is what actually causes strokes and heart attacks, not the number, the damage. Let me explain something most people never hear. Your arteries are not pipes. They're not plastic tubes. They're living tissue, soft, elastic, flexible. When you're young and healthy, your arteries expand with every heartbeat like a balloon, then gently recoil, pushing blood forward smoothly. That elasticity protects your heart. It protects your brain. It protects your kidneys. But when I worked in surgery, when I opened the chest and touched real arteries with my hands, I saw something completely different in people with hypertension. Their vessels didn't feel alive. They felt rigid, crunchy, sometimes almost like chalk. Instead of stretching, they resisted. Instead of absorbing pressure, they transferred every bit of force directly to the heart. Imagine slamming water through a metal pipe versus a rubber hose. Which one cracks first? That's what hypertension really is. Not pressure. Rigidity. And here's the scary part. No blood pressure pill fixes rigidity. Not ACE inhibitors, not calcium blockers, not diuretics. They lower the reading, but they don't repair the vessel wall. It's like putting tape over a cracked pipe instead of replacing it. The leak slows down, but the pipe is still broken. And that's why people with controlled blood pressure still have strokes, still have heart attacks, still end up in surgery, because the structure was never fixed. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael was 69, perfect patient on paper, 3 medications. Blood pressure, 126/78. His doctor said, "You're doing great." Then one morning, he collapsed while gardening. Massive stroke. When we looked at his scans, his arteries weren't clogged with fat. They were stiff, calcified, aging far beyond his years. The numbers were controlled, but the damage never stopped. Nobody had ever told him what actually causes hypertension. Nobody had ever explained how to reverse the damage, only how to manage the reading, and that difference cost him his independence. So today, I want to show you something different, not management, reversal. Because hypertension is not random, it's not genetics, it's not just aging. It happens because of 3 hidden mechanisms inside your vessels, 3 processes that slowly destroy flexibility, and once you understand them, you can actually repair them, naturally, step by step, at the cellular level. Here's what most doctors never explain. Your blood vessels have an inner lining called the endothelium. Think of it like a protective skin inside your arteries. When it's healthy, it releases chemicals that relax vessels, prevent clots, reduce inflammation, keep blood flowing smoothly. But when this lining is damaged, everything changes. Your vessels tighten, inflammation increases, plaque forms faster, pressure rises. And this damage starts incredibly small, microscopic. Years before your first high reading, which means by the time you're diagnosed, the problem has already been developing for 10 or 20 years. And what damages it? Not salt, not water. 3 things most people do every single day. Blood sugar spikes, chronic stress, inflammation. Every time your blood sugar jumps after a meal, every time you sleep poorly, every time stress hormones stay elevated, you're scraping away that protective lining, little by little, until your arteries lose their natural elasticity. And once they lose elasticity, pressure rises automatically. Because stiff pipes create higher pressure. It's basic physics. So if stiffness is the real problem, then the real question becomes, how do we restore flexibility? How do we repair the vessel wall? How do we actually reverse hypertension instead of chasing numbers forever? That's exactly what I'm going to show you. But first, you need to understand the second mechanism. And this one shocks most people because it has nothing to do with salt. It has to do with something your doctor probably never tested, your insulin. So let me ask you something most doctors never ask. When was the last time someone checked your insulin? Not your glucose. Not your A1C, not your cholesterol, your insulin. Because this one hormone quietly controls more of your blood pressure than salt ever could. And almost nobody tests it. Here's the part that shocked me early in my career. I used to believe what we were all taught in medical school. Salt causes hypertension. Reduce sodium. Take a diuretic. Problem solved. Except it didn't make sense, because I kept seeing patients who followed everything perfectly. Low salt, low fat, medication every day, and their blood pressure still wouldn't budge. Meanwhile, I had other patients who ate salty food their whole lives, and their blood pressure was completely normal, so it couldn't just be salt. Something else had to be controlling the system. And then I discovered what was really happening. Your kidneys control blood pressure, not your heart, not your arteries, your kidneys. They decide how much fluid stays in your body. More fluid, higher pressure, less fluid, lower pressure, simple, and sodium controls fluid. So normally, if you eat extra salt, your kidneys just pee it out. Problem solved naturally. But here's the catch. There's one thing that can override this system completely. Insulin. When insulin is elevated, your kidneys cannot release sodium. They physically hold on to it, no matter how little salt you eat. It's like someone locked the exit door. Sodium stays trapped. Water follows sodium. Fluid builds up, pressure rises. Not because of salt, because the kidneys are locked, and insulin is holding the key. This is called what I privately refer to as the kidney lock. And once it's activated, no amount of salt restriction fixes the problem. You could eat bland, salt-free food for the rest of your life, and your pressure would still stay high. Because the issue isn't intake, it's retention. Now think about modern life. We don't eat 3 meals, we snack constantly. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, dessert. Every time you eat, insulin spikes. And if you eat every 2-3 hours, insulin never goes down. It stays elevated all day, all night. Your kidneys never unlock. They never release sodium, so fluid accumulates 24/7, and your blood pressure stays high permanently. This is why people with prediabetes, belly fat, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes almost always have hypertension. Not coincidence? Same hormone, same root cause, high insulin. Let me tell you about Linda. Linda was 72. She had resistant hypertension, 4 medications, low salt diet, did everything right. Still 158/92. Her doctor told her, "This is just aging. You'll probably need another medication." But something didn't sit right with me, so I ran a test nobody had ever ordered for her. Fasting insulin. Her number? Normal is under 8. Her insulin was nearly triple what it should be, which meant her kidneys had been locked for years. She wasn't salt sensitive, she was insulin sensitive. Big difference. So we didn't add another pill. We didn't cut more salt. We did something radically simple. We lowered her insulin. That's it. No extreme diet, no starvation, just one change. We stopped eating all day. I told her, eat inside an 8-hour window, fast for 16 hours. That's called time-restricted eating. Nothing fancy. Just giving your body time without insulin. Because during fasting, insulin drops. When insulin drops, kidneys unlock. When kidneys unlock, they release sodium and water. And when that happens, blood pressure falls naturally. No force, no medication, just physiology. Within 2 weeks, her morning swelling disappeared. Her rings fit again. Her ankles weren't puffy. Within a month, her blood pressure dropped to 138. Within 3 months, 124/78. We removed one medication. 6 months later, she was on only one pill, something she hadn't achieved in 15 years, all because we fixed the mechanism, not the symptom. And here's what makes me angry. Nobody had ever explained this to her, not once. She'd seen cardiologists for years, and not one had mentioned insulin. Not one had explained meal timing, only take another pill, reduce salt more, try harder. Imagine being told for 15 years that you're failing when the strategy itself was wrong. But insulin isn't the only hidden problem. There's something else happening inside your arteries at the same time, something you can't feel, you can't see, you can't measure with a cuff, but it's silently making your vessels harder every single year. And this is the part most doctors completely ignore, because there's no drug for it. And when there's no drug, medicine tends to look the other way. I'm talking about calcification, your arteries slowly turning into bone. And this next part is where everything changes. Because once arteries calcify, pressure becomes inevitable. But what most people don't realize is calcification is not permanent. It can actually be reversed. And in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how, step by step. How to restore vessel flexibility, remove calcium from artery walls, increase nitric oxide, unlock your kidneys, and finally, normalize your pressure naturally. Now let's talk about the part that almost nobody explains. The part I see with my own eyes when I'm in surgery. The part that truly determines whether your blood pressure stays high or finally comes down for good. Your arteries. Because hypertension is not just about numbers on a monitor. It's about what your vessels are made of. And over time, many people's arteries slowly lose something very important: flexibility. When you're young, your arteries are soft and elastic. If I gently press one during surgery, it bends easily. It springs back. It feels alive. But in someone who has had high blood pressure for years, it feels completely different. Rigid, thick, almost brittle. Sometimes it feels closer to bone than to tissue. And that stiffness changes everything because stiff arteries cannot absorb pressure. So every heartbeat hits your vessels harder, like a hammer on a pipe, over and over and over again. And that's when your systolic number climbs. Not because of fluid, not because of salt, but because the vessel wall itself has hardened. This process is called arterial calcification. And yes, it literally means calcium building up in your artery walls. The same mineral that makes your bones strong can make your arteries stiff. But here's what most people don't realize. Calcium doesn't just randomly stick there. Your body actively moves it, which means if it can move calcium into arteries, it can move calcium out too. And that's very good news, because it means stiffness is not permanent. There's a small protein in your body called MGP. Think of it like a traffic controller for calcium. When this protein is active, it sends calcium to your bones. When it's inactive, calcium drifts into soft tissues like arteries. The difference between active and inactive? One nutrient, vitamin K2, not K1. K2, specifically the MK7 form. Without enough K2, calcium ends up in the wrong places. With enough K2, your body starts relocating it properly. Over time, vessels can slowly regain flexibility. And flexibility means lower pressure naturally. Not forced, not medicated, natural. But K2 doesn't work alone. It needs partners. Vitamin D helps absorb calcium. Magnesium keeps calcium dissolved and prevents crystals. All three together create balance. And balance is what protects your arteries. I've seen this firsthand. George was 74. He had been on blood pressure medication for nearly 18 years. His numbers were controlled, but his pulse pressure was very wide. That told me something important. His arteries were stiff. We added 3 simple things: vitamin K2, vitamin D, magnesium glycinate. Nothing extreme, no complicated routine, just consistency. Months later, his vessels were more flexible, his pressure dropped, and with his doctor's supervision, we reduced his medication. Not because we forced anything, but because his body didn't need it anymore. So now you understand 2 huge pieces of the puzzle. First, repair the inner lining of your arteries. Second, restore flexibility by supporting proper calcium balance. But there's still one more piece, and this one might be the most powerful of all, because it works almost immediately, within minutes. I'm talking about nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a tiny gas your body produces naturally, and it's one of the most powerful vessel relaxers known. When nitric oxide rises, arteries open. Blood flows smoothly, pressure drops. When nitric oxide is low, vessels tighten, pressure climbs. So the question becomes, how do we make more of it naturally? 3 very simple ways, and I recommend all 3. First, movement. Not exhausting workouts, not marathons, just regular gentle movement. Because when blood flows faster through your vessels, it creates something called shear stress. That friction tells your arteries, release nitric oxide. Even a brisk walk can trigger this. 15 minutes after meals works beautifully, simple, safe, effective. Second, isometric strength exercises. One of my favorites for seniors is hand grip squeezing. Just hold a soft grip or stress ball. Squeeze firmly for 2 minutes. Rest. Repeat a few times. That steady muscle contraction increases circulation dramatically. Studies show this alone can lower systolic pressure by 10 points or more. No equipment, no gym. You can do it while watching TV. Third, nasal breathing. This one surprises people. Your nose actually produces nitric oxide, but only if you breathe through it. Mouth breathing bypasses the whole system. So simply walking and breathing through your nose, especially during light exercise, can noticeably improve circulation. Free, effortless, and powerful. Now let's put everything together. because I don't want you overwhelmed. I want this to feel doable, simple, something you can actually follow. Here's how a normal day might look. Nothing extreme, just small habits. Morning, wake up, water or tea. Light walk, breathe through your nose. Let insulin stay low. Midday, first meal. Whole foods, protein, vegetables. Less processed sugar. After eating, take a short walk. Afternoon, hand grip or light resistance exercises. Keep your body moving. Evening, finish dinner earlier. Give your body a 16-hour fasting window overnight. This lowers insulin, unlocks your kidneys, lets your body release excess fluid naturally. Daily support, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K2, colorful vegetables, berries, leafy greens, foods that protect your vessels. That's it. Not complicated, not expensive, not extreme, just steady habits that work with your biology. And here's something important. I'm not telling you to stop your medication. Never do that without your doctor. What I'm saying is this: medication manages numbers. Lifestyle repairs vessels. When vessels improve, numbers follow. And sometimes, medications can be reduced safely, but always with supervision. I want you to hear this clearly. High blood pressure is not a life sentence. Your body is not broken. Your vessels are not doomed. They are living tissue. And living tissue can heal at any age, even in your 60s, 70s, 80s. I've seen it too many times to doubt it. So start small. Don't try everything at once. Pick one thing today. Maybe a walk after dinner, maybe nasal breathing, maybe time-restricted eating. Just begin, because every day you support your vessels is a day your heart thanks you. Take care of your arteries. They carry your life through you every second, and they deserve your attention. I'll see you in the next video.